Hello, I am making a tower defense type game with the Unity game engine. In this devlog, I will be going over a few key elements of how I will be designing and implementing my game. I will be getting my hands dirty in a completely new Unity project. I've been fond of tower defense games ever since I played Warcraft 3 custom maps back in the day, such as Elementity, Legion TD, Tropical Tower Wars, Gem TD, and others. For a person that loved real-time strategy games, but couldn't make micromanagement decisions under time pressure, TDs to me looked a lot more relaxing. The tower defense genre is quite set in stone. You have a path for enemy units to walk on, and you place auto-control turrets next to that path. When the units walk near the turrets, they shoot them down. Enemies that walk the full path subtract from the total amount of lives. That much is pretty standard. Anything else is pretty much specific to whatever game you're playing. Right now I have 3 foundational things that I want to base my game around, and I will be focusing on one of them in this video. I recognize that there are some things about the genre that you cannot take away, but I will try to incorporate my own ideas as well. One underexplored area, which I really loved in such games, was how some of them didn't have predefined paths, like in the example I just showed. Instead, they only define where the enemies start and where they need to go, allowing you to block the path by placing towers anywhere on the map, enabling more creativity. A lot of the time that results in unique maze layouts, so that units take these incredibly long paths to get to the finish point. Warcraft 3 custom map Gem TD takes this one step further. Units have to walk to multiple destinations first before they can reach their end goal. I think it adds necessary restrictions to an otherwise very free arena, with too many choices where to put your towers. This type of mazing with waypoints approach is one of the 3 foundational things I want in my game. Let's get to creating. I started with a simple quad that would act as the arena for the towers and units, wrote a simple grid shader with tips I found online, and slapped on some cubes that would act as waypoints for the path. Finally, I added a simple debug-like UI to make things easier. Then, I wrote some A-star pathfinding code. I won't be going into exactly how A-star works. There are multiple tutorials on that already, by people that are way smarter than me. There were a few noteworthy differences that I made. Firstly, I had to incorporate waypoints into the code, but that was pretty simple. The full path was just divided into multiple start and end nodes. Another difference was that while units will be able to walk diagonally across nodes, they will not be able to do so if that corner is blocked off by 2 unwalkable nodes. This was very important to get right with the mazing aspect, as otherwise mazes would be very squarish, and some buildings would end up acting as gap fillers. Finally, I put together some scripts for units to retrieve paths between waypoints, created some dummy units, and there we go. Already looking familiar. Of course, the system will need some patching up as the project goes on, to accommodate units being slowed, stunned, flying, or anything like that, but this is a fantastic start. I also wanted to try out the Cinemachine package. I've heard great things about it simplifying a lot of the camera controls, and, as it turns out, it's exactly what I needed. I set up my camera with Cinemachine's orbital transposer property, which allows me to turn my camera in an orbit around the target, completely without code. But, as you can see, this is a pretty boring game. You can't even win. Units just go and take your lives, and you cannot do anything about it. You need to build something. I had to have some sort of a foundation for building stuff, so I wrote up some code to be able to enter a building state. In that state, pointing with a mouse on the platform performs a raycast to see where it collides. I use a prefab to represent what is going to be built, which contains the outline shape of the building along with a few squares below to mark which nodes will be built upon. Clicking the mouse clears everything and instantiates the building, just like in any other game you've ever played. With this simple system, you can already start building mazes around waypoints. So far, things are kinda falling right into place, like building blocks, without much struggle. Spoilers, not for long. The units can absolutely get stuck if you block them fully, but let's ignore that for now. Though you still can't win, you can only prolong the inevitable. Need to make towers actually attack. It should be just checking things off a list. Need a timer for attack speed, a range to search for enemy units, a missile prefab to instantiate when the timer expires, and simple follow unit logic for the missile. There we go, towers now attack. I'm a big fan of making things work as soon as possible, even if it's just a crude implementation. You can always adjust later to incorporate more game logic, and it helps to immediately get visual feedback on your mechanics. You've reached the end of this devlog. Thanks for sticking with me. I actually have more stuff developed for this project, but I want to space it out across multiple videos. There are things I want to go more in depth about. There are also countless ideas about mechanics, graphics, story elements, and much more in my game design document, and I hope that most of them will come to fruition. Before tinkering with this project, last year I solo developed and released a 2D runner-like game titled We See You. It's a rhythm game where you avoid enemies moving in predictable patterns. Check it out if you're interested.